Welcome to CTI Data's webinar series featuring the guiding principles for modern data architectures. My name is Amanda Darcangelo, and I am a lead consultant here at CTI Data and will be your host during the series. Across the series, we will be highlighting the principles that drive successful outcomes and guide the evolution of modern data and AI architectures. Beyond today's session, this will include a persona-driven approach, cloud-first strategies, continuous data curation, secure, trusted, and certified data, design for data consumers, and applied AI and analytics. Today, we're discussing the themes and drivers behind those principles with CTI Data's Managing Director, Scott Stein. Hi, Scott. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Amanda. Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So, Scott, before getting into modern data architecture, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I lead CTI Data's solutions team. Been in the data and analytics space for more than a couple decades, helping Global 2000 and emerging organizations leverage data to drive business outcomes. Worked with organizations large and small. I headed the Northeast data practice for a global management consulting firm. And on the other end of the spectrum, work with startups to incubate, foster, and scale innovation around data and AI. So it's been a fun ride.
Sounds exciting. And how would you define a modern data architecture?
Um, how would I define it? So this is a snapshot of how we view all the components of a modern data and AI architecture. Lots of information here, but at a high level, we define a modern data and AI architecture, excuse me, as a platform and environment that addresses the full life cycle of data management, from data curation to analytics to AI to governance, an architecture that really enables data-driven decision making across the business, leverages innovation, accommodates change, drives data democratization and self-service, and really treats data as a strategic asset. Um, as you know, Amanda, the half-life of any data and analytics technology is like 18 months. So, a good modern data and AI architecture continuously grows and evolves. It's cost effective, it's manageable, it applies, the full life cycle of these solutions with built-in flexibility for innovation. Depending on the company, the need, and the point in time, this could really be a guide map or an end state for driving things like cloud modernization and legacy migration, or it can be a blueprint for leveraging AI innovation. For instance, LLMs and Gen AI on the right side of this diagram, from our perspective, really should be embedded in your enterprise. They shouldn't be one-off fragmented science projects that, live in a vacuum, as we often see these days. Um, but the, Gen AI should be part of a living, breathing, modern data and AI architecture that serves the enterprise and provides quantifiable value.
That makes a lot of sense. Having that holistic view on data is really what's going to help companies scale. So now let's move on to the guiding principles. Why do we structure our guiding principles? What are the drivers behind these? Why are they so imperative in building a comprehensive modern data platform?
Good question. So, it's not enough just to stand up these components in this modern data architecture. At CTI Data, we've been helping organizations for over 2 decades, to modernize their capabilities around consuming data, leveraging analytics. And over that time, we've seen a set of consistent themes and proven success drivers that really lead to high return on data investments and things that enable data-driven decision making, and again, data democratization across the workforce.
Could you briefly take us through these guiding principles?
Sure. As you said earlier, we'll expand on all of these in upcoming discussions and sessions, so I won't drain these principles, but wanted to at least provide a view of, the enabling frameworks and principles that drive successful data and AI outcomes. So, first one here, persona-driven approaches. It's really important to design role-based, persona-based life cycle models to drive analytics across your business or your industry value chain, across customer journeys, patient journeys, student journeys, et cetera. In fact, this kind of small graphic Here's an example of a persona-driven view specifically for the healthcare value chain. So to a healthcare provider, you're a patient. To a life sciences company, you're a consumer. To an insurer, you're a member. And they all really bring both unique as well as common analytics opportunities to those journeys, right? I'd make an observation here also that, generally we find that traditional requirements gathering that applies to other software disciplines and business systems aren't enough for data and analytics innovation in our experience. What's absolutely essential is an approach that helps organizations understand the technical possibilities in lockstep with defining what success looks like from a business perspective, and then shaping those requirements, both immediate and long term, and accordingly accommodating for the ever-changing business climate and the pace of innovation. Again, we'll elaborate on these successful approaches in our next session. In fact, I think that's the next webinar coming up, right?
That it
Um,
is.
the uh, as a side note, this challenge, along with kind of the breakneck speed of data and analytics innovation, is really driving opportunities for things like centers of excellence models and managed development services. But again, we could kind of touch on that as well. So second here, cloud first, right? So cloud data platforms emerging as key enablers of digital transformation. Companies are implementing these platforms at a rapid pace, and it's important to really understand these vendor roadmaps and align these roadmaps to the strategic path of your organization, which is why we kind of have strategic partnerships and understand in depth the leading cloud vendors in the space, platforms like AWS, Azure, as well as more purpose-built data platform vendors like Databricks and Snowflake. And what's super important here are architectures and solutions, not just within these vendor platforms, but across them, heterogeneous environments, excuse me, that also include hybrid on-prem data movement, because that's really the reality of most organizations, right? Um, we also see the need for acceleration and ROI-driven approaches to aid, large on-prem to cloud migrations aimed at vendors like Informatica that have large on-prem install bases and significant innovation in their modern cloud tooling. Next one here, continuous data curation. This is a big change agent. Automation is critical here. We're helping organizations evolve from, every data source or every data requirement being a new and separate start-stop project to a more continuous process for bringing on sources. Many refer to this approach as DevOps, data ops, etc. But automation really kind of moves the needle. Um, Reusable templated data models across domains and industries accelerate time to value for data consumption as well. A right tool for the right job approach also, helps here. Not every tool is created equal for every use case. Everything from streaming use cases with Kafka or Confluent to traditional batch, ETL, ELT, etc. And lastly, we're now helping organizations leverage AI to drive innovation in data engineering and data curation, which is a really interesting use of AI. And again, we'll dive into these things in upcoming sessions. Next one here, data security, obviously top of mind. Companies are striving to democratize data, operationalize AI models. They really need to ensure it's done in a secure way, addressing, regulatory compliance, depending on your industry, be it healthcare privacy data, retail transaction data, or financial data. And more these days, it's also vital to provide transparency to AI models, right? And drive bias out of these models. Speaking of AI, next one here, applied AI. So operationalizing AI is a big challenge for organizations. But it's super important if they're going to realize the gains promised in this space, right? Companies more and more have the data science expertise, but really struggle to put these models in use. So change management approaches to operationalize these models are key to success while driving reusability and again, transparency. It's also important to extend, ML and AI ops processes to include business measurement over time. Are you getting the intended ROI and benefits from your models? and to be deliberate kind of with user adoption strategies. Last one here, design for consumers, very important theme. Too often data warehouses, data lakes, are built for data engineers, not for data consumers. So it's super important to design these platforms with the end in mind. So for instance, take a semantic modeling approach that drives user adoption. Again, more to come on this in the coming weeks as well. We'll kind of drill into these things. Democratizing data across the org starts with data and AI governance. Many organizations attempt this with either too much process or an emphasis on the tools and the technologies. There's a top-down, bottom-up sweet spot, really, that gives you the desired outcomes here. I'd also point out that ROI acceleration for data and AI innovation happens when you're able to integrate all of these solutions into your regular business processes at the point of decision for a customer transaction, or an underwriting decision, or a cost reduction action, or a financial decision, et cetera. And lastly, here, productizing data and often monetizing it are significant opportunities for our customers. Sorry, I know I said a lot there. I kind of went pretty quickly, but again, we're going to drill into these different things, and I wanted to at least cover them at a high level. So,
Right. So
mm,
later on, we'll have series sessions dedicated to all of these. For now, let's take a closer look at that last guiding principle around data usability, productization, and monetization. Could you give a quick overview of what you mean by data productization?
sure. So companies more and more are looking at data as a strategic asset, and they're promoting self-service consumption of these data and AI assets across and even outside the organization. So, to enable this, successful approaches we're seeing and shaping for organizations include productizing data assets and creating, by comparison, Amazon marketplace like paradigms for data products. Data products, as in everything from data pipelines to machine learning models to KPI driven dashboards, and then treating these as data and AI products, automating processes around data management and enabling this self service shopping, if you will, and consumption of these products in the marketplace. And then quite often, these approaches are being extended to enable companies to now monetize these data products with their customers. And, as you just said, in an upcoming session, we'll drill into this approach and, show some compelling examples around how companies are taking this data productization approach.
Thank you. That sounds great. And thank you so much for joining us today. We're just out of time, but for all of you watching, look forward to the follow-up session, a persona-driven approach with principal consultant Mark Janowitz. See everyone soon. Thank you for joining this CTI data webinar. For questions or further information, you can learn more at our website, ctidata.com, or reach out directly to Amanda at ask-amanda@ctidata.com. We hope to see you at future webinars. Thank you.